The morning sun glowed over Manhattan, painting the glass towers gold as Emily Carter, the unstoppable CEO of Carter Innovations, prepared for another long day. Her name was everywhere: Forbes covers, business shows, and success seminars. People called her the Iron Lady of Wall Street. She had it all: power, money, respect, everything except peace. Inside her sleek penthouse, Emily stood before the mirror, adjusting her blazer. She looked perfect on the outside, but behind those sharp eyes was a woman running on empty. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. Coffee had replaced meals, and ambition had replaced rest. Her assistant had begged her to take a break, but Emily only smiled and said, "Greater than, breaks are for people who can afford to stop. I can't." By 9 a.m., she was in the boardroom, a room full of polished suits and flashing presentations. The topic was a billion-dollar merger that would make headlines. Emily spoke with her usual fire and focus, her voice commanding every inch of the room. But halfway through her sentence, something went wrong. Her hand trembled as she reached for a glass of water. Her vision blurred. A sharp, crushing pain gripped her chest. Papers slipped from her hand, and before anyone could react, she collapsed to the floor. The room erupted in panic. "Call 911, someone shouted. Her assistant knelt beside her, tears streaming. Moments later, the sound of sirens filled the air. Paramedics rushed in, performing CPR as they lifted her onto a stretcher. Her pulse was weak, fading fast. As the ambulance sped through traffic, one medic whispered to another, "She's barely holding on, this doesn't look good." On the other side of the city, far from the skyscrapers and luxury offices, Jake Turner wiped the grease from his hands and shut the hood of a beat-up pickup truck. The small auto shop where he worked wasn't much: cracked floors, flickering lights, and a rusty old sign that read Turner's Repairs. But to Jake, it was a blessing. It was the only thing keeping food on the table for him and his little girl, Lily. Lily, just 6 years old, sat quietly in the corner with her backpack and crayons, coloring a picture of a big house with flowers and a sun. Every few minutes, she'd look up and smile at her dad. "When we get rich, can we buy a house like this?" she asked innocently. Jake chuckled, though his eyes showed the weight of reality. "Sure thing, kiddo. Maybe even two." Life hadn't been kind to him. He'd lost his wife, Megan, in a car accident 3 years ago. Since then, he'd been doing everything, working double shifts, skipping meals, and patching up old tires, just to keep them going. Still, he never complained. He believed that good things came to people who kept their hearts kind. That night, as he locked the shop, Jake turned on the radio in his old truck. A reporter's voice came through. "Greater than, breaking news, Emily Carter, the billionaire CEO of Carter Innovations, remains in critical condition after collapsing during a meeting. Doctors are searching for a rare B-negative blood donor, but time is running out." Jake sighed. "Must be nice to have the world care that much about you," he muttered. Lily, half asleep in the passenger seat, whispered softly, "Daddy, maybe someone will help her." The next morning was gray and chilly. Jake Turner drove through the crowded streets of downtown New York, his old pickup truck rattling with every turn. He had just finished repairing a car for a hospital staff member and was delivering it to the parking lot. As he parked, he noticed a young nurse sitting on a bench near the hospital in trance, her face buried in her hands. Jake hesitated for a moment, then walked over. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said gently. "Are you all right?" The nurse looked up, her eyes red. It's heartbreaking. Our patient, Emily Carter, the CEO. She's dying, and there's nothing anyone can do. No donor, no time." Jake frowned, the name familiar from the news. "The same woman from the radio." She nodded. "Yeah. The doctors say her only hope is a heart transplant or a rare blood donor to stabilize her long enough. But her blood type is almost impossible to match, B negative." Jake froze. His hands instinctively went to his chest. "B negative," he repeated. "Yes," she said softly. "You wouldn't believe how rare it is." For a few seconds, Jake just stood there, heart pounding. "That's my type," he thought. It had been years since he last donated blood, but he still remembered the nurse at the Red Cross smiling and saying, "You've got the rare stuff." Without thinking, he asked, "Where can I sign up to get tested?" The nurse blinked, surprised. "You'd do that? For someone you don't even know?" Jake shrugged lightly, though emotion tugged at his voice. If it were my daughter in there, I'd pray someone would. The hospital corridors buzzed with tension. Doctors moved quickly, nurses whispered, and monitors beeped in steady rhythm, the sound of fragile hope. Jake Turner sat in a small waiting room, his hands shaking slightly as he stared at the floor. The test results were in. A doctor entered, holding a clipboard, his expression mixed with disbelief and relief. "Mr. Turner," he said, "you're a perfect match for Ms. Carter." Jake looked up slowly. "So, I can help her?" The doctor nodded. "Yes, but it's not that simple. The procedure is risky. Donating now could put your own health in serious danger, maybe even your life. You're a single parent, right?" Jake's throat tightened. He thought about Lily, probably sitting in the cafeteria with a juice box, completely unaware of what was happening. He swallowed hard. "If I don't do this, she dies, right?" The doctor hesitated. "Yes. Without your donation, she won't make it through the night." Jake closed his eyes for a long moment. He could hear his late wife's voice echoing in his mind, "Be the kind of man Lily can be proud of." He stood up, resolve washing over him like a wave. "Then do it," he said quietly. "Use whatever you need." The doctor's eyes widened. "Mr. Turner, please think this through." "I already have," Jake interrupted. "If it were Lily lying in that bed, I'd want someone to help her. So, help her now." He signed the consent papers with trembling hands. As they wheeled him toward the operating room, Lily waved from the hallway, smiling brightly. Jake smiled back, tears in his eyes. "Be brave, baby girl," he whispered. "Daddy's just going to help someone." The world outside the hospital kept moving, cars honking, people rushing, life continuing, but inside room 214, time seemed to stand still. Emily Carter slowly opened her eyes for the first time in weeks. The sterile white ceiling blurred into focus as the soft hum of medical machines filled the air. Her chest ached, but she could breathe, really breathe. A nurse gasped when she saw Emily awake. "You made it," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "Welcome back, Ms. Carter." Emily's voice was weak. "The surgery, did it work?" The nurse smiled gently. "It did. You're alive because of your donor." Emily frowned. Who is it?" The nurse hesitated, then said quietly, "A man named Jake Turner. He risked everything to help you." The name meant nothing to her, yet it hit her like a wave. A stranger had given her a second chance. "Where is he?" she asked, tears welling up. Down the hall, in another room, Jake lay pale but breathing. He had made it through, barely. His little daughter, Lily, sat beside him, drawing hearts on a piece of paper. When Emily walked in, supported by a nurse, Jake looked up in surprise. "You," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "You saved my life." Jake smiled weakly. "Guess I did something right for once." Emily knelt beside his bed, holding Lily's tiny hand. "You did more than that," she said. "You reminded me that success means nothing without compassion." Months later, Emily founded the Turner Foundation, a charity that supported single parents across the country. Jake became her right-hand man, helping families just like his.